G'day there guys, wins plenty of imaginative arguments in the shower here, back at it again with another episode of r/AmiTheA. Now if I am today, I want you to tell me down in the comments, chuck a like on the video, sit back, relax, and enjoy the bloody good content. Posted by user Ali3477, titled, Am I the a-hole for taking my children away from their grandparents after my husband died? I, 34 female, met my husband while I was doing an exchange semester in Australia when I was 20. We later got married and I moved to Australia permanently. We have 2 kids of 6 female and 4 female, and I'm 4 months pregnant. My husband passed away 3 months ago. It was, and still is, horrible. With my husband not being here anymore, I want to move back to my home country. I think it'll be good for my kids because the education system over there is heaps better, but the main reason I have is that I need my family. My 4-year-old doesn't really have an option on it. My 6-year-old is excited because my parents have horses. Here in Australia, my husband's parents look after our kids Monday to Friday, as my husband and I both had full-time jobs. So obviously they're close. Mother-in-law and father-in-law are very attached to the kids and love being grandparents. Last weekend, I broke the news to them. I didn't expect them to be happy, but I was hoping they'd understand. They didn't. It was ugly. They asked me how dare I take away their grandchildren after they lost their only son. They said my husband would be disappointed and he'd want his children to grow up in Australia. I had to leave because I couldn't handle the situation. I feel guilty because my husband did want to stay in Australia, but mainly because that's where we settled. I don't think he'd be disappointed, I think he'd understand. But I feel so guilty, but also angry. I feel like it was cruel of mother-in-law and father-in-law to say what they said. I plan to come back to Australia regularly, because I don't plan to deprive my children of their heritage, and it has become my home over the years. Basically, is it wrong to move back home? I would say no. Even though Australia is a beautiful country, I would say it's not wrong for you to move back home. Your in-laws just gave you even more reason to by blowing up at you like that, instead of being understanding of the situation like they should be, in my opinion. I think it's very unfair of them to do that, although I can understand that they're grief-struck by their son dying 3 months ago. That is not enough time to really process this situation. And then to have you remove the only grandkids they have from their life, it just feels like they're losing all of their family in one fell swoop. So I can completely understand their actions, and I can't completely fault them for lashing out, but I can fault them at the same time because it's disrespectful to OP and her wishes and her own mental health. So therefore, I would recommend that you do leave the country and follow through with just coming back regularly so that, that they at least have some connection to their grandparents and their heritage. That seems healthy. No a-holes here. These situations just come up when a loved one dies. You need your family and they need theirs. I'm not going to call someone an a-hole for reacting adversely during their grief, and I'm not going to call someone an a-hole for wanting a support system. I completely agree with this. Just a sucky situation. Anyway, the grandparents could move too. If he's their only child, there wouldn't be other children keeping them in Australia. I don't think they can move. They only speak English, immigration policy won't allow it, and they pretty much live off Centrelink, but they're welcome to visit and will visit too. What is your home country? That's a pretty messed up immigration policy, and people try and say America has a restrictive immigration policy. Switzerland. I heard Switzerland is a tough country to get to immigrate to, but it's such a beautiful place. You're lucky to be a local. Yeah, and I think I agree with this comment here. She's not getting to Australia on a regular basis with 3 kids under the age of 7 from Switzerland. Probably shouldn't tell her in-laws that she'll visit often. Edit, just so I'm clear, I think OP should go home and not feel guilty about doing so. However, I'm cautioning about providing false hope to everyone involved, including the kids, by saying they'll visit regularly if OP is unable to commit to it, which realistically is a bit of an ordeal given the ages, prices of tickets, and amount of travel needed. The planes fly both directions. While that's true, if the grandparents are living on Centrelink, which is social security and unemployment depending on their age, they're not going to be able to afford trips to Switzerland. Unless OP either pays for their flights or pays to fly the family each way, trips are not going to be frequent. That said, that should not stop OP from returning to Switzerland and her own family support. It is 2020, communication over the internet is possible, and OP is allowed to have their own family support system. Yeah, add on top of that, the Australian dollar is really weak, so the kids are going to be much better off in Switzerland, in my opinion. Even though the standard of living in Australia is great and the wages are high, the dollar is really weak, and I just would view Switzerland as a better country overall to live in her situation. But personally, I just like Australia too much, so I just stay there myself. No a-holes here. Everyone is grieving right now, and all of you had valid emotions. They lost their son, and now they're losing their grandchildren. You lost your husband, and now you're alone in a foreign land. Family therapy is definitely needed here, but I don't think anyone is the a-hole. Update: am I the a-hole for taking my children away from their grandparents after my husband died? It's been nearly 3 weeks since my last post. A lot has happened since. First off, we're back home in Switzerland. The kids are okay. As planned, we moved in with family. The kids are bonding with their grandparents and cousins and the animals. They're set up for therapy, as am I. The events leading up to this. So I went back to my in-laws to explain my side of the story. I told them again that we would be coming back, but that right now I need to make sure that I can be a good mum to my kids. They were very understanding and asked if they could take the kids the next day. I agreed and dropped them off. However, pickup didn't go as planned. The kids weren't ready, and father-in-law told me that they decided it would be best for everyone if they stayed with them for a while, as I was clearly unstable. There was screaming, tears, threats, and lots of ugly things were said. I called my lawyer, who told me to call the police. Luckily, it didn't come to that, and they gave me back the kids. But honestly, that was it for me. Trust gone. I booked flights for us and arranged what I could in such a limited time span. I told my in-laws they had seriously hurt my trust and that I would need time to think what this means for the future. They were allowed to say goodbye to the kids in person. We arrived at home on Monday. The kids already video called my in-laws, as I want to make sure it's as easy as possible for them to transition. I am very hurt and disappointed that it had to end this way, but also hopeful for the future. Right now, I'm enjoying getting pampered by my mum, who's very excited to be part of this pregnancy. In the future, I'll try to rekindle the relationship with my in-laws. That's really toxic of them to have done that. I understand they were desperate, but dear Lord, you sink to a deep, dark place to say that, you're unstable, we're keeping the kids from you. No. Wow. I'm actually disgusted by that, I'm not gonna lie. You know what their plan was? To try and act as if you were mentally unstable and take your kids from you, possibly sticking you in a psych ward to cement their position. I'd be frank with them and say you don't plan to go back until you get over their complete betrayal and trying to kidnap your children. That you had thought they were going to make it easy to keep the kids in their lives, but they made sure that is not going to be an easy thing. You're now surrounded by the people you can trust, and I suggest staying there and healing until you feel like you want to go back to Australia. I'm afraid you're right. I just feel bad for my kids. Are the grandparents able to travel to Switzerland? Once you're feeling less betrayed, it would probably make you feel more comfortable and secure to have them come to you for a visit. Much harder for them to try to take the kids in Switzerland. I'm sorry all of this happened to you. Sending best wishes. I'm not stopping them from coming. I'm not sure if they can afford it now that they don't get any money for looking after the kids anymore. That sounds like a them problem. If they really care about your children, they'll find a way to visit. Trips to Europe in the off or shoulder seasons are affordable, and there are plenty of sales each year too. If they genuinely want to be a part of your kids' lives, they'll make it happen. What they did was unforgivable. They've proven they can't be trusted with visitation on their terms, so be firm. They want to see the kids, they come to you to do it. Kids are resilient, and as long as you monitor those calls so the in-laws don't try and manipulate them, you should be good. The kids probably love being in a new wonderful country, will find it amazing, and will be too busy learning the language and trying new things to miss Australia too much. I'm in Sydney, Australia, and with the quarantine only just lifting, it's not much fun here right now. You would have experienced this while still here, so they already had a separation from their friends. This is just extending it. They can still get online and catch up with them. Posted by user Telethesis, titled, Would I be the a-hole for taking a job with my dad's biggest client, meaning he won't get any more work with them? My dad has a business that me and my brother work for. My dad wants to leave the family business entirely to my older brother. He says it makes the most sense because my older brother is his oldest child and has been in the business the longest. He has a business degree and knows much more about the business side of this work. While I do the physical aspect of the job very well, I was a bit impulsive when I was younger, so he doesn't think it would be a good idea for me to be in charge. To be honest, I don't think it would be either, but considering how much I contribute to this business, and that I'm his son too, I think I should at least get some say in the future of the business and a stake in the company. Not even half, but some. In the end, my father said no, but that I would get some money after he died. The whole thing really ticked me off, and I was starting to get bitter continuing to work there and be around them, so I gave my 2 weeks' notice. I've just been trying to keep a neutral demeanor the whole time. This week is my last week, and Jared, the guy that represents our biggest client, was asking if I could take care of his other project next week. So I told him I would pass that along to my brother, but that I'm not going to be working here next week. Jared and I talk a lot and are pretty friendly with each other because I'm the one that mostly works this job. We've actually hung out outside of work a few times. So he asked why I was leaving. I just said for personal reasons. He asks where I was going to be working, and I told him I wasn't sure yet because there's not a lot of business that needs employees with my skills. Anyway, today while I'm working, Jared's boss comes down and asks me if I'll consider working for them. He said he's been thinking for a while of doing all this work in-house, but has been having trouble finding someone experienced enough since it's such a specialized field. He said he's always been very happy with my work, and that's why they always request me. He offered me a 3-year contract, and the salary is so much more than I ever would have made at my dad's company, plus it comes with benefits and an office. Not sure exactly what I'll do with an office, but that seems pretty cool. I also get to pick out the equipment, and I can hire 2 employees to work under me. Overall, it's an amazing deal, but I know that losing this client will hit my family business hard. At the same time, it's not like I was asking for it or trying to steal their clients. He was the one that came to me and wanted me. I thought about maybe using this as a bargaining chip with my dad to get some say and a stake in the company. But honestly, I don't want to get it that way, and I just don't want to work with either of them anymore. Edit: I really regret putting the whole bargaining chip in this post. People seem to keep focusing on me doing that when I say right afterwards that I don't want to do that and don't want to even work with them anymore. It was just a fleeting thought, guys. Edit 2: seriously guys, not actually planning on bargaining or negotiating with my dad or brother. I'm gonna say OP is not the a-hole if he takes this job, but he will cause a lot of turmoil in his family and be viewed as an a-hole by them for potentially screwing a lot of their budgets and profits, which I can understand, but OP I think needs to look after himself, and the brother, if he's a good businessman, will find more clients elsewhere. But obviously, each to their own with their opinions on this one. That's just mine. Not the a-hole. Unless you use this to pressure your dad, just go and take the job. I agree, but it sounds like a rock and a hard place regardless, as he can either blindside his family by potentially crippling their business, or tell them ahead of time, which my gut reaction says it is the right thing to do, as we don't know what percentage of their business comes from this one client. But I would bet that prompts a predictable reaction from the family to preserve their livelihood. I don't envy OP's position, but I feel like this is a more nuanced conflict than people are treating it. It sounds like this client intends to eventually do this work in-house regardless of what OP does, so the family business is going to lose the client anyway. The family should be happy OP has this amazing job offer that can greatly improve their life, not the a-hole. This is the perfect response to how a caring family should react. I understand those words individually, but can't make it out put together like that. Caring? Family? Not on this subreddit. Given that OP is bypassed in the family business that he's worked in and done the majority of physical work and would essentially become an employee under his brother, I don't think this is entirely a healthy and caring family dynamic anyway. OP wasn't actively poaching clients. He was already preferred by the clients, and the client approached him when learning he was available. While it will hit the family business, driving away one of the key people will generally impact a business. OP, I assume you've checked you don't have an enforceable non-compete clause in your contract if you even have a contract. I'd assume not, but you never know. I think putting in your 2-week notice was the final bargaining chip. If they didn't care enough to keep you then, they aren't going to care enough to keep you now. They'll just want their client back, and who knows what will happen after that. Maybe they keep their word to you, maybe not. Take this job, secure your future, but be prepared for the backlash of your family, not the a-hole. Yeah, family is the hard part. Agreed with everyone saying don't bargain, but also plan out how you would tell your family with the best outcome. For instance, maybe make sure to tell them when they're both there, so no one feels like, why did you tell dad first? Make sure you practice telling the story chronologically to make sure they know you didn't try anything fishy. Make sure to practice their potential reactions and how you might try to diffuse their anger. Maybe tell them when mum and other siblings are there, because they can act as the voice of reason after. Good luck, OP. OP also says that they did sign a contract, but they're pretty sure there wasn't a non-compete clause. Let's hope that's the truth. Updates. Would I be the a-hole for taking a job with my dad's biggest client, meaning he won't get any more work with them? So, it's been a while since my first post, and things have been settled. I felt like a good amount of y'all said it was okay to take the job. There were a few that said I should give my dad and brother a heads up that this was all happening before I accepted the job so as not to blindside them. So that's what I did the day after I made my original post. The talk itself didn't go so smoothly though. They got pretty angry. My dad said this was a reason why it should have been bad to give me part of the business because I'm selfish and only think of myself when he's trying to keep over a dozen people employed. My brother said I was basically betraying the family because I didn't get something that I didn't really deserve from them. I didn't exactly want to stay around them anymore after that, so I just walked out of there early that day and decided not to finish out the rest of the week that I was going to. Later, I called to formally accept the job. The equipment we ordered only came last week, so I was basically just being paid to stay at home and do nothing for the first few weeks. It was actually nice to have a break from everything before diving into work again. It's been pretty great at the new place though. My new workspace is a lot different, nicer, than my dad's shop. It's wide and open. It has air conditioning, assigned parking, so no more fighting for a spot on the streets. The office they gave me isn't huge, but it's also nice. Like I said in my previous post, I don't have much use for an office, but it's still nice to have a private place to myself, especially one with a mini fridge. Overall, I definitely feel much more appreciated here than I ever felt working with my dad. Speaking of which, I haven't talked to my dad or brother since, and I don't think I will. I had heard from Jared that right after I had left, after talking to them about the job, they had called my new boss and tried to deter him from hiring me. I also heard from a cousin that my dad's business isn't doing so well right now, and they had to let some people go and are downsizing. Some of their clients had shut down their businesses due to COVID, so that combined with losing their big clients permanently hit them hard. Anyway, there's not much more to say than that. Many of you were right, and it all likely did permanently damage my relationship with my father and brother, but I still want to say thank you to everyone who encouraged me to take the job. It's unfortunate that your dad and brother didn't consider the potential consequences of their decision. I'm sorry they've chosen to make all of this your fault, blaming you for looking after yourself and your own future. I wish you the best of luck in the new job, and hope that your family will eventually be able to mend things. It's the classic, well, if it isn't the consequences of your own actions. Also, they're mixing up cause and effect. Business partners are responsible for looking out for the well-being of the business. Employees are responsible for doing a job in return for money. Your father and brother made a decision that you are an employee instead of a business partner, and now they're mad at you for acting like an employee instead of a business partner. If they actually wanted you to act in the best interests of the business, instead of seeking the highest pay and best working conditions for the job that you're paid to do, they should have cut you in as a part owner so that it would actually be one of your responsibilities. This is probably one of the best succinct breakdowns I've seen to help prevent misplaced company loyalty. Yep, guy hit the nail on the head. It's what I was thinking, but I wouldn't have phrased it so well. It's also just hilarious that he didn't deserve it when him leaving seems like it may have caused them to go out of business. Seems like you may deserve stuff if the entire business relies on your continued employment. Really though, if their business can't handle him leaving, then clearly that he was more valuable than they were recognizing. Also, this company was already looking to do work themselves. If the guy they always use had left the company, that probably would have just pushed them to doing it in-house anyway. This whole situation was pretty tough, so you've managed pretty well overall. On one hand, your dad employed you and enabled you to learn everything you know. On the other hand, expecting to keep your head down and be a silent, good worker, while your brother with the business degree gets to control, is bullcrap. You came up with a good compromise to split the business, so all bets were off as soon as your father declined. He can call you selfish all he wants. He was clearly not appreciative of the work you were doing. Posted by user Federal Geologist, titled, "Would I be the a-hole if I invite my ex-fiancé, who I know still has feelings for me, to the wedding?" I dated my ex-fiancé Linus for 6 years, and prior to that, we were very good friends and part of the same friend group since college. We broke up 2 years ago because I started having feelings for my now fiancé, Jano. The breakup was emotional, but Linus said that he understood and thanked me for not cheating on him. We stayed friends and continued to spend time together with our friend group. When I started dating Jano, my friend Tessa told me that Linus said he thinks I won't be with Jano for long because of the differences in our social and economic backgrounds, and that when we break up, he is sure that I will go back to him. It was difficult to hear, but I thought to myself that Linus was understandably upset that I'm dating the man who was the reason why I broke off our engagement. So he must be saying things to make himself feel better. In the almost 2 years that Jano and I have been together, Linus has been nothing but kind and helpful to us. He was always nice to Jano, and even introduced him to his friends who were able to help Jano with his work. Linus never made romantic advances towards me, and he dated other girls, so I thought that he already moved on. Jano and I got engaged recently, and last weekend, while I was working on my guest list with Tessa, she told me that Linus was upset and spent the night drinking when he learned of my engagement. I asked our friend Hans if it was true, and he told me it was. I was surprised, because the day after our announcement, Linus sent messages to me and Jano congratulating us and wishing us the best. I decided to talk to Linus, and he admitted that he still has feelings for me, but he said that he accepts that I don't feel the same, and he respects my relationship with Jano. That's why he befriended him and never made advances towards me. He said he's heartbroken for himself, but happy for me. I still wanted to invite Linus to the wedding because it feels wrong to not invite him, given that he's my friend. He's part of my friend group, and everyone else will be there, and he has done a lot for me and Jano. Jano has no issues with me inviting Linus, because he says he can't get angry at Linus for still having feelings for me when he never acted on it and was always kind to us. But Tessa pointed out that we should think about it carefully, because knowing what we know, inviting Linus will be like rubbing salt in the wound. Like telling him, I know you still love me, now here's your front row seat to come and watch me get married to the guy I left you for. Would I be the a-hole if I still invite Linus to my wedding? Now that you put it that way, I think you would be, in all honesty. I think this is like a cycle of grief or some sense of loss that Linus is going through, and I think that he's already had a night of drinking that probably detached him a bit. I feel like you're just going to repeat that damage to him if you invite him to the wedding. I understand he's going to have resentment if he doesn't get to go, but I feel like if he does go, that's something that's not going to leave him for the rest of his life. I know I would be very upset if that was me in that situation, and I wouldn't actually want to go to the wedding if I was him. So I think it's best to be the a-hole and just not have him there. You're the a-hole. Knowingly inviting someone who has feelings for you and who is just waiting for the opportunity for you and your fiancé to break up is not fair to your fiancé. I will never understand how people don't see it as narcissistic for someone to keep their exes hovering around like this. If I know someone has feelings for me, they are kept 100% separate from my relationship. Yes, I agree. I'm perfectly fine with being friends with an ex as long as I know they don't have feelings. But it can be incredibly damaging to a relationship if one of the partners is good friends with someone who has feelings for them. Yup, And it's one of those things where responsibility for creating distance falls on the one who they have feelings for. The person orbiting is looking at it like an all's fair in love and war situation, otherwise they'd have a little more class and move on. If the current partner presses the issue too much, it's too easily spun into them being jealous. You were with the guy for 6 years, engaged to be married. He broke up with you to be with another chick, seemingly got engaged pretty quickly because now it's 2 years later and they're planning the guest list for their wedding. You've pretended to move on with your life in front of him, but the rest of your friends know the truth. That you are so madly in love with him that you'd rather stay on his good side in hopes that his new marriage will one day crumble and you can sweep right back in where you left off, having never actually moved on yourself. Being invited to his wedding, saying his vows with his new bride, a woman you've befriended in this whole mess in order to stay close to him is going to hurt you. But you can tough through it. Seeing him kiss her and completely in love with her is going to hurt you. But you can tough through it. Knowing they will consummate that marriage later that night is going to hurt you, but you can tough through it, right? Right? No. Maybe that part will be too much and you'll break. Maybe you'll break during the vows. Maybe you'll stand up and make a grand romantic gesture and object to the two getting married. Just like in the movies, right? But that would make you the a-hole. But only because he's the a-hole for putting you in this position. Oh, I'm sorry, I had the roles reversed. You're the a-hole. Or, there's this thing where you're not entitled to other people's attention and love, and the ability to decline a wedding invitation. Linus is responsible for his own romantic hang-ups. In fact, by inviting him, she's giving him a choice. By not inviting him, she would be making the choice for him. Like, a lot of people would see the wedding invitation as an obligation of being a good friend. Yes, technically he can decline, but to be a supportive friend, he probably wouldn't. Why put him in such a crappy position in the first place? It's a very good question. But the more I look into it, the more I want to change my stance to that no one's the a-hole here. This is just a really messy situation, and a lot of people continue to point that out. I'm sorry if I've phrased these comments as just you're the a-hole. I can agree with you if you think no one sucks here either. Update. Would I be the a-hole if I invite my ex-fiancé, who I know still has feelings for me, to my wedding? Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing fine. I would like to give you an update on the situation I posted about last year. The two top answers said I was you're the a-hole if I invite Linus. That's alright, but what I had a hard time accepting was the commenters that said I was a narcissist for keeping my ex hovering around like this, because I know that I absolutely didn't do that. After we broke up, my relationship with Linus was purely platonic, and he even dated other girls during that time, so I really thought we had both moved on, and we were carrying on with our friendship as members of the same friend group. Most of the answers after the top two said no a-holes here, and suggested something that really resonated with me. This was to talk to Linus and tell him that while I would like to have him in my wedding, I understand if he can't do that, and don't want him to feel obligated to attend. That way, I can let him make the decision instead of making him feel left out, since I'm inviting all our other friends, and he won't have to feel like he has to go to be polite. So, Yano and I talked to Linus, and I'd like to thank Onserevera for his or her comments, because it's almost exactly what I told Linus. I want you to know that I really value your friendship, and I'd love to have you at my wedding if you want to be there, but I also completely understand if you don't feel comfortable attending. It's totally up to you, and I won't be offended if you choose not to come, but I want you to know that the invitation is open. Linus was gone for a while, but came back this year and attended our wedding last month. There were some commenters who said that if I invite him, I should have some friends seated near him in case he tries to make a scene, but there was none of that. We chatted for a bit, and he said he was great and just opened a new business. He seemed happy, and Yano and I are happy for him. Thank you to everyone who replied to my post, and those who wished me well. I had great advice from here, and things fortunately turned out well for me, so I'm very thankful for that. I love how everyone is just happy in this situation. I know I didn't read your original post, but I lurked at it, and I wish you and your significant other the best. Linus for sure isn't really happy. It's been a year, and we don't know Linus. He might be more genuinely over it now. and even if he's not completely there yet, he might still be happy. Everyone in this situation seems pretty reasonable and open. He's not being unrealistic. I hope the best for them all. Yeah, that guy's treating the situation as a soap opera. Life isn't always a salty situation like that. I'm sure Linus probably got over it. One of the limitations of a sub like this is that we're given extremely limited information on which to judge a situation. So we tend to treat characters and situations very two-dimensionally. But people are never just one thing, and situations are rarely black and white. We don't know any of the people involved, but you do. So to any potential posters out there, take our comments with a grain of salt, and please don't destroy any relationships over what bored teenagers living in their parents' basements have to say. Yeah, I made a post here and got called the a-hole. Someone else made an almost identical post from the other perspective, and also got called the a-hole, and that's when I realized not to take the votes here seriously. For anyone curious, my post was about asking my husband to poop in the separate toilet, not the toilet that shares a room with my shower because of the smell. We ended up talking about things, and it turned out my husband is slightly germophobic and just didn't want to use the toilet that guests had access to. We compromised. He now only uses my shower room toilet when we actually have guests over, and we just make sure to disinfect the other toilet if a guest has to use it so he doesn't feel gross about it. Alright, and I think that's where we're going to leave today's episode, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed the content today. If you guys loved watching it as much as I loved making it, I would love for you to subscribe to the channel already if you haven't. Tell me what you thought of it down in the comments below, maybe like the video, who knows. I'd also like to take this time to thank my awesome Patreon and channel members. Without you guys, I don't know what I'd do. I'd probably be homeless on the streets of Ireland, crying, Irish dancing all over town. It would just be a mess. But no, for real, you guys are up on the screen now. Thank each and every one of you guys. And if you personally want to join the club yourself, there are links down in the description below. There's also the join button next to the subscribe button. Small monthly fee, but hey, it goes a long way to help me create more awesome content. Well, with that said, guys, I hope you do have a lovely day, night, sleep, evening, day at work, day at school, whatever you're up to. I hope you keep awesome today. You're looking amazing, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.